So first of all, we'd just like to welcome you all to our second art and design webinar. So this webinar is going to focus on photography and also graphics, both of which are A-level courses. Now, it's worth just noting at this point that we have only got just under, well, about half an hour. So hopefully we'll get through as many questions as we can. So if you do have any questions that you would like to direct at staff, please can you just pop those questions in the Q&A section at the bottom, and they'll feed through, and hopefully we'll be able to answer all of your questions this evening. So initially, if we can just introduce everybody. So my name is Vicky. I'm head of the art department, and I primarily teach on the A-level photography course. Rachel, if I can pass over to you.
Yeah, hiya, I'm Rachel. I teach on photography and on textiles and on the Art Foundation course as well.
And Simon.
Hello there, I'm Simon and I teach on photography and fine art and course leader for Art Foundation.
And Brian.
Hello, my name's Brian Lee and I teach on the graphic communication course along with Robin, who's you're going to introduce you to next. He's just sitting along the thing here.
And Robin.
Am I last? Hello, I'm Robin. I also teach on graphics and I teach on the Art Foundation course as well.
Lovely, thank you. What we're going to do is obviously we're going to talk a little bit about the courses, what facilities and equipment we have on offer at QE. We're going to talk a little bit about careers and progression. We might touch just very briefly on what trips we've previously ran, because we are hoping that we will be able to run a trip soon or in the future, and a little bit about student projects. So if I can just pass over to Rachel, she's going to talk a little bit about the photography course to start with.
Yeah, so the photography course, we look at a variety of different things. So I'll run through kind of the breakdown of it. So we start the course with a series of workshops. So we teach you from your basics. So questions just popped up there. Is it okay to take this course if you're new to photography and didn't take it for GCSE? So that's absolutely fine. So we know that not all schools offer photography as a GCSE. So we teach you everything from the basics. So we start off with camera workshops where we look at different camera settings. So you can learn how to take high quality images, but also to take more creative images as well. So we look at shutter speed. So we look at freezing and blurring motion and drawing with light. We also look at shutter speed and how you would use that alongside ISO and aperture, which are the other two camera workshops that we look at to take high quality images as well, and how to use those for different genres of photography, so portrait photography, landscape photography, etc. And once you've done the camera workshops, you do a little bit of research around those so you can form your own understanding and develop some independence on the course right at the beginning. We then move into looking at composition rules, so how to kind of set up and frame your photos really well. And then we develop that into Photoshop skills as well. So you don't have to have used Photoshop or Adobe software before. Again, we teach you everything from the basics. If you have done photography before or you're quite familiar with Photoshop and Lightroom, then obviously there is like different extension activities and sort of further development that you can do so that you're not kind of start waiting around almost like trying to sort of keep yourself busy with basic skills if you're already quite familiar with it. So it's a nice, we're quite flexible in the different levels of skill of students that come onto the course. Once you've done those few weeks of skills development, we move into a personal project. So we give you some ideas of different themes and genres that you could base your personal project on. And then we help and guide you into how you would plan a shoot, how you would set up a shoot, how you go through selection of successful imagery, and then how you're going to develop that into whatever kind of outcome you've planned based around your theme. So we would look at different artists and photographers and look at the skills and processes and techniques that they've used, how you can take influence from them to develop your own personal project. We also look at, we do a different second project where we set up an online sketchbook or an online portfolio, if you like. So we build a website and show you how to present work professionally online. So you've got then the option of doing a sketchbook portfolio, or a website portfolio. Okay, and this would then develop into your kind of main personal project. So you've learned all these kind of different skills. You've learned like different Photoshop manipulation, different editing techniques. Developed a theme and within a genre of photography. Got used to using the digital SLR cameras, and there's a few other equipment that Vicky will mention as well. So then in your personal project, you're able to choose a theme that suits you more, and then you can really drive your project and your skills forward in this really personal project. So that all forms like component 1. There's then component 2 of the course, which is kind of our exam project, if you like. So this is a project that's set by the exam board. So again, you'll be given a series of different themes to choose from. These are always quite open, so they're not very restricted really. And then you'll develop a project in exactly the same way you've done your personal project. But the only difference is at the end, you sit a 15-hour exam where you finish off your project. So it's not a written exam. You kind of go into it knowing exactly what you need to do because you'll have done all the prep for it beforehand. So it's a really creative course, really fun, lots of different avenues to go down, and lots of different options for kind of themes and genres of photography to explore within it as well.
Lovely, thank you, Rachel. We have got a couple of questions popping through at the moment. So we've got one student asking about would they need to bring in a personal camera to the course? The answer to that is if you have one, absolutely, you can bring that to lessons, and obviously you can use that during the workshops, as Rachel mentioned. However, it's not a necessity. So I know Lucy's just asked a question there about will you need to buy your own camera? Initially, you probably won't want to. You would probably want to try out some of the ones that we've got in college, decide what you like to work with, and then it could be that you would opt to buy a camera at a later stage if if you're really interested in the subject. But we do have a series of cameras that you can borrow from our library. Simon, can I just pass over to you? Would you like to talk a little bit about the workshops in second year for photography?
Yeah, so linking to the idea that you might need to buy your own camera, certainly you'd be advised to use our cameras. Like we have a really great range of digital SLRs here, but we've also got a good range of lenses for them. And within second year, we start to focus on some extended skills workshops. So we'll build on the work that you've done that Rachel was discussing in first year, where you've explored ISO and shutter speed and aperture. And then we'll start to add in a few things and ask you to really sort of extend your skills in certain areas. So considering things like focal length, using different lenses, using specialist lenses like fisheye lenses or super wide angle lenses or long telephoto lenses, and how you would use those to the best effect to get the results that you would want for your own personal project. We build on things like lighting, and we've got a studio with lighting in it that you can use with a couple of backdrops in it. And then we also will give you the opportunity, if you like, to develop skills in analog photography. So for instance, we've got a range of 35mm analog stills camera, and you can shoot black and white film on those. We've got a small dark room, so you can develop the film and you can scan it in. We've got some good quality film scanners that you can use. You can scan the film in and either produce prints or manipulate it digitally after that. We also do some historic process work, so looking at cyanotype, so you can do some cyanotype printing. It's a very old historic process where you mix chemicals together to make your own light sensitive materials that you then coat in the dark room and then expose under the UV exposure unit. And you use the digitally created work for that. So you previously created digital work, or you can use so analog work that you've created as well for that.
Lovely, thank you, Simon. If we can move on to graphics, so over to Brian and Robin, if you would like to introduce and talk a little bit about the graphics course and what skills students can expect to learn.
Yeah, well, if you're working on the graphic communication course, you'll be working with Robin and I, and the first sort of few months of the course are basically series of workshops in which we explore different sorts of aspects of graphic design. We start off with some typography exercises, and this is really just to get everybody working on the network and finding out where all the printers are and that sort of thing, so that basically you can find your way around the department and where to store your work and where to sort of like put images on the computer. We then sort of begin a series of photographic workshops where we send you out with a digital camera and ask you to go and record certain types of images, and then we bring them back, tidy them up, clean them up, and put them into Photoshop so that we can print them out on photo paper, so that we can actually get used to outputting your work and get it into a folio. After that, there's about 2 or 3 weeks worth of Photoshop lessons, and all the lessons are basically led by us. We don't expect you to know anything. We will talk you through all the different aspects of working with Photoshop, and some people use it a lot more than others. For instance, Robin might use it more for digital work in terms of sort of like logo design and typography, whereas I tend to like to use Photoshop to draw and scan images in and to paint into and that sort of thing. So it's much more sort of like I treat it like a painting program as much as anything. But it's always about, for everyone, it's getting to know Photoshop is really useful because it helps you to output your work, print your work, and store your digital images so that you've got an archive of your own work for the future. We then go into a whole series of manual drawing skills, which are basically based on variants of tracing. So if you don't feel confident necessarily drawing freehand, these are a series of sort of methods that we explore which help you to transfer or transpose digital photographic images into other kinds of graphical images. So we look at things like variations on line drawing and things like that, which is what our groups are actually doing at the moment. And that's the basics behind all things like, for instance, things like cartooning and sort of graphic novels and that sort of thing. It's the basis of all of that. So we look at how you can work with images. If you don't feel confident drawing freehand, as I say, this is all, we've got a whole series of light pads, and we use tracing paper and things like that in order to make images. What it's about is manipulating images to turn them into other kinds of artwork, basically. We look at things like monoprinting, stenciling, and collaging techniques, where we're actually cutting up images and reassembling them, which is essentially what you're doing in Photoshop to a greater or lesser extent. And now all of this work, we ask you to output it and place it into a folder, so that basically one of the things that we're learning as we're traveling along is presentation skills, so that everything that we're doing is about sort of the final output, what you're going to present to your client. We treat it very much as a sort of real world job. So Robin and I will be your clients, and basically we'll be asking you to do a series of tasks and taking you through them. Now, all the tasks basically have a series of options within them, because what we're trying to find out is, what are you interested in and where do your skills lie, so that basically we can hopefully, as we get further and further into the course, start to target you with more sort of like appropriate sort of projects that will help you to develop your skills in the future. One of the main projects that we do after all of the workshops is a book jacket project, and you'll get a series of titles, and you basically will then start the research phase of the project. So you'll be looking at artists and designers, you'll be looking at other book jackets and how other artists and designers have created these sorts of graphical images. We'll then get you to start to create artwork, so images. It's basically going back through all of the sort of like workshop lessons. And obviously by that time, you'll have got more confident in using some of them. What we find is that many of our students start to combine all the lessons that we've done. So the drawing, the painting, and the digital stuff in order to manipulate images, which is what we're really trying to encourage, that you use the equipment and you use the software to your own advantage and to sort of like improve your own skills. The book jacket project usually runs for about 6 weeks. And at the end of it, we develop our ideas, and then you present your ideas to your clients, which in this case, again, is Robin and I, and we will discuss with you what we think the outcome of your project could possibly be. And then we output your finals through our photographic printers and place that into your project. After that, we were onto a series of diagnostic things, and I think Robin would probably like to talk to you about that.
Hi, are we on? Am I on? Yeah. Hi guys. Yeah, so after we've done the book jacket brief, which is the first major brief, which is how most of your projects will be delivered to you, we start a series of 3 different diagnostic briefs. Really, the point of that is so you can have a go at everything, find out what you like, try a bit of, a bit of every area of design, so you know what to focus on when you get to your major projects. The first one we've run is character design. So anybody who's interested in video games design or design for movies or comic books or anything like that, we give you a series of characters descriptions and you will illustrate those. Again, don't be worried if drawing isn't your thing. There is lots and lots of different areas of design for you to try out. The second one is we run a branding brief. So last year, changes occasionally throughout the years, but last year we ran a restaurant design. So you had to come up with a logo and the branding for a restaurant. Let's have a look. What else? The next one is more conceptual design. So it's more kind of thinking in different ways about how to represent things. Last year it was movie posters. So you could do movie posters or a series of movie posters, but trying to represent it in a slightly more conceptual and abstract way. So you're thinking slightly outside the box. It's all designed to look at different areas of design for you to find out what you're interested in. After those, we then start, this is when the marked work begins. So you'll start out with your first major project in about March of the first year. That is written by you. It can be basically anything you like within reason, as long as it meets the criteria, as long as it follows the brief. You will write the brief, we'll help you with that. And by that point, you should have tried a whole different areas, lots of different areas of design, know what you're interested in, and you can pick something that's either what you enjoy doing or it's what you want to move forward and do in a career or at university. So that's wide open. It's really anything you like at all. After that, in around the beginning of February, you'll start your exam component. Now, the exam component is not really an exam as you probably know it before. You're given the brief, and again, it's another brief. You're given it in February. You have that whole time to go through the same process again as you've done with all the other briefs. You research it, you start, you do your own primary photographic research, you start your experimentation, trying lots of different ideas, and then you finalize it at the end. With the exam project, there isn't an exam element of it, but by the time you get to that, you've already done all of the work that you need, all the preparation work, all your illustrations. You've chatted to me and Brian about how you want to do it. You can even take into the exam, which is 15 hours of exam conditions time, but actually you really just have to finish up your brief. You can take in a list of what you need to do. You've discussed it with us before, so there's no surprises. There's no turn over your paper now and start panicking. You already know exactly what you're doing by that point.
Could I just add that the main component, the personal study component, counts as 60% of your A-level grade. So that's the one that you get to choose to what you want to do and what the content might be. And Robin and I will help guide you on that. And it's the one that you have the longest time to sort of put together and polish and present as well as you can. And obviously that represents the most of your grade. The exam unit counts as 40% of your grade. Basically, the thing that you're most interested in should necessarily have the most weight in terms of your results.
Can I just pick up on the exam one as well, Brian? The exam board provide a very, very loose theme. So you're given a theme of what the brief has got to be about, but they always state that's a starting point. So if you're interested in animation or you're interested in illustration, you can take that theme and do what you want with it. The whole idea is at the end of the course, you have a portfolio that's tailored for what you want to do next. So if you want to go into a job, you'll have a portfolio for that job. If you want to go to university, you'll have a portfolio for that exact course that you want to do.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Brian. We have got a couple of questions here. We've got a question from Polly. How many subjects would you need to take? And what would be a good combination with photography? So usually students will study 3 A levels at QE. And in terms of subject combinations, well, obviously for a lot of the creative subjects, it works really well. Lots of students do media, film studies. However, on the flip side of that, we also have students that do business studies and IT if they're looking to set up their own business or work as a photographer. We have students that look at sociology that are interested in documentary photography, textiles if they're interested in fashion. Also, we have quite a few students that look at like English literature that will respond photographically to a piece of text that they're working on in English. So again, photography is quite a versatile subject, and you can link it in with lots of other subject combinations. If I can move on to Philip's question, in terms of the start dates, the courses are 2 years. So students will start in September. So for students looking to start in the following academic year, it would be September 21 to June 23. Now, if it's just art courses, so students can just study art courses. So again, we have 4 art A levels on offer at QE. Those art courses finish around the middle of May. So if the student was just to study art courses, they would be finished slightly earlier than students who were sitting exams in the June time. We have got a question from Katie as well. Are graphics and photography separate courses? Yes, they are. Yeah, so they're separate A-level courses. So
Do you want me to answer that, Vic?
yeah, yeah.
Add a little bit to that. I mean, essentially the difference between graphics and photography is that in the graphics area, there's quite a bit of sort of, we're pushing people into sort of like drawing and painting and creating images as well. Whereas in photography, there's a lot more lens-based medias. We might be actually working on desks and making models and, you know, creating physical artworks. Whereas photography tends to be, pardon the pun, focused on lens-based media.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've got a question from Tegan. Is graphic communication applicable to product design?
Yes. Sorry, go on.
Yes, absolutely. We've had lots of students who've gone on to do product design after doing graphics. It's quite a pivotal subject, is graphic design at A level. Typically, we have students who go on to do illustration or graphic design for print or film, web. It can be product design, it could be animation, it could be, oh, help me out.
I was going to say, you might want to take a look on our QE alumni site, because you can actually see then what students have done previously, what jobs they've gone on to do after they've been at QE. I mean, we've got somebody who's now a senior designer at Lego. We had a young lady who's now got 3 books, pop-up books published, because she was really interested in that when she came to the college, and she said that was something that she wanted to do. We have a student who works for Tesco's interior sort of design, so he makes 3D models of stores and things like that. And we have, you know, people who are doing all sorts of things. I was talking to some parents of an ex-student the other day who basically, she now works in the computer games industry in London, and I'm currently trying to chase her to get her to do our QE alumni site. But if you go on there and take a look, you can see what sort of fields that our ex-students have gone into.
Thank you, Brian. We've got some questions from Daniel. Would I take graphics or photography if I wanted to become a movie editor stroke CGI? Simon, would you want to answer that one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, both courses are applicable, and it very much depends sort of where you kind of wanted to go with that. I know within graphics, they do a lot of animation work, and you may touch on some of the sort of CGI stuff. Certainly within photography, you're going to learn a lot of valuable skills. You would learn a lot of lens-based work that would really help you to sort of shoot great movies. Like either course would be quite a useful subject to sort of pick one over the other. Both are going to teach you some good computer skills. Both are going to teach you a little bit of camera skills. Neither focus particularly on movie editing. Within photography, you can do some movie editing. Within graphics, you can do a certain amount of animation as well. I don't know, what would you think, Robin?
Well, I mean, last year, we've got a couple more this year, I think. Last year, we had a student whose personal study project was film credits. So she was looking at Kyle Cooper, who did Seven, does American Horror Story, and he's kind of the go-to guy for film credits at the moment. So she based her entire project around that. So if you went to that sort of the kind of credits area of it, then graphics would be very rich. But along with film and photography and probably ideal. That's what
Yeah, I mean, we have an ex-student who works on the Black Mirror sort of TV show, and he's worked on Jumanji and that sort of thing, and he does specialize in sort of like creating computer-generated effects for movies.
Thank you. We've got a question from Katie Madison. Can you take photography as a fourth subject? We wouldn't kind of endorse the idea of students studying for A levels. However, it does depend on how well you work at your GCSEs. So basically, if you have got a high GCSE score, so if you're achieving 8s and 9s, a select number of students can study 4 subjects. But again, in terms of universities and what they're asking for, they would expect students to study 3 A levels. So that's kind of the line on that one. But again, that would depend on your individual profile and obviously how successful you are at GCSE. Okay. Lovely. Well, we've got 4 minutes left. In terms of just very quickly, in terms of course, facilities and equipment, at QE we do have a lot of resources and facilities for students to use. So again, there's a central library that hosts a variety of digital equipment that students can borrow. Then within our own departments, we've got specialist kit. So for example, in photography, we've got specialist lenses, we've got an underwater housing, a negative scanner. So those are some of your more kind of unusual pieces of kit. Likewise in graphics, we are looking at getting a laser cutter, which is going to be delivered soon, which is very exciting. And a lot of the equipment is kind of universal, so you can kind of move around and use a variety of the kit across the department. And again, it depends on your personal project. We do also have quite a strong presence on social media. So again, make sure you check out our Instagram. And as Brian's mentioned a couple of times, the Facebook Alumni, which again is full of ex-students and their creative journeys. We have just got another question through from Tyler. So are cameras available to be bought / rented? If so, what is the price? So Tyler, we do have a stock of cameras in the library, which teachers rent out for lessons, and that is a free service. So we don't charge for students to use the college equipment. So that is free whilst you are a student with us at QE.
Vicky,
so thank you for the question.
Could I just mention, in the graphics area, we have lots of light pads which all the students use in our sort of workshop lessons, and many people find that they buy them themselves because they're so useful in terms of sort of like manipulating images. We've also got a lot of digital tablets which students can paint and artwork directly into sort of various programs. We have students who have their own iPads who sort of output their own images, but we've also got a big A3 scanner in graphics, which lots of the students use in order to sort of make a record of their work, because it's a nice professional piece of kit.
Can I touch on the software?
You can do.
Yeah, we use, we have, as you can see behind Vicky, we have a full suite of Macs, which have the full Adobe Creative Suite on there. We use primarily Photoshop and Illustrator and graphics, mostly Photoshop, but we look at vector illustration in Illustrator as well. So there's no shortage of software or editing software if that is what you're interested in.
We also have had several students who wanted specific apps or specific pieces of software that they'd got used to putting on the network. And we can do that, you know, depending on sort of exactly what it is or whether it's a chargeable app that we have to buy. But like basically, you know, we can look at that in terms of sort of like if there's something specific that you would like to sort of use when you're in the graphics area.
Lovely. We've just had a couple of questions through from Philip. In terms of software, the Adobe Cloud software is free for students to use. So because the software is on the cloud now, it means that students can log in and access it at college, but students can actually download the software for free. So we do have the license for students to use that software at home at no extra cost. And in terms of student discount, I mean, yes, if it's required, but I mean, ultimately the software that we use in college is free for students to use at home. Okay, and we'll have to squeeze one more question. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you, Louise. So just lastly, we do have our subject sites. So again, if there's any further questions or you want to check out some of the student work, i.e. check out the visuals, some of the project topics that they've explored, some of the design work that they've done, please do log on to the QE site and check out our art and design subject site, and you'll see we've each got our own separate page on there. And hopefully we look forward to seeing you on our courses in the future. Thank you, everybody.